When the words "you treat me like shit" catapulted my entire freaking life. So let's talk about that story and how this can possibly apply to your life. So I'm sharing this story with you because I think sometimes we can spin for a really long time. And until somebody calls us out on our own shit, we just keep going in fucking circles. So if this could like save you that moment of going in a circle, or maybe like halt you in some way that you're like, oh, that's what's been going on. So some of the things that I think we don't always be honest with ourselves with is the fact that like when you've come from a portion of yourself in which you have sucked, okay, like you were below average or just didn't meet the criteria of most things in life, and then all of a sudden you're trying to reach for bigger things, and then you feel like that there's this plausibility and possibility towards it, and so you're acting towards it, and you're doing these things and you're making these decisions, but then when you really look back, like you have absolutely nothing to show for yourself. And then you glance around your life and you see all these people that it seems like they're doing things, but then we're not supposed to compare ourselves to people. But at the same time, there's always that person, that friend, that stranger that somebody's going to talk about that isn't amounting to anything, that isn't taking self responsibility. But what sometimes if that person is ourselves, but we've been like coddled, we've coddled ourselves, like other people has given us the benefit of the doubt, has given us false hope. You know, it's kind of like the people that go on American Idol and like I think they really do think that they can sing, and like they're kind of tone deaf, and it's like mama told them that they could, and so they go throughout their life like thinking that they really can do this thing, and it's like, yeah, maybe it was some auto tune, but like naturally on your own that shit ain't happening. And so what I'm trying to say is like there was this moment in my life where for a few years, my husband would tell me, like, we'd get in these fights. And the thing is like, these things would be happening. And the only thing that I could focus on at the time was victimization. Now, I wasn't realistically thinking that I was being the victim, but where I was acting out of was the victim. So my husband has PTSD from war. He's a bit of an alpha male type of dude. So he's kind of intense at times. And especially when I first met him back in 2013. And so I was lacking self confidence, lacking self accountability, lacking a lot of self awareness, and very much had a sob story that was attached to my thing. He was very much of a go getter, yada, yada, yada. So basically, almost everything that went wrong with us in terms of lack of communication or him being mad at me about something over these years resulted in me always in the very beginning, like the first 5 to 7 years we were together. We've been together 16. A lot's changed. But in the very beginning, the type of person I was like, I didn't really try hard. I'm complaining about grades, and yes, school was hard for me, but I also was really fucking lazy. And it took me many years later to finally like admit that. Like, I half-assed a lot of stuff. I didn't do what it took. I wasn't very diligent. Yeah, there were some things in my life that I honestly, like in grade school, got tutored on and stuff and still kind of did shitty. Like, I still spell really epically bad. You know, like I really do. I spell really bad. But like as I told my husband, like you still can make it in life. So the point is, a lot of times we have to face ourselves with who we are and what we're doing, even though that part sucks. So in the moment your husband basically looks at you and says, you treat me like shit, and you immediately want to be like, what the fuck? Like, and dismiss it. I think that's something we sometimes have to question ourselves, because there's a line of narcissism and abuse versus like somebody literally like calling you out on your shit. And for me, it was somebody calling me out on my shit because I justified my behavior. I justified my irritability. I justified my tone based on health, sleep, etc. So let me get into what does it have to do with me realizing like completely outgrew my life and I had no fucking idea. So backstory, I used to be super duper 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 low self-esteem, like very low self-esteem and internally. Now I didn't externalize it much. I don't think in a healthy way. Like, yes, I thought I had like a cute little body and all this stuff, but at the same time, I also hated my body. So it was weird stuff. Okay. Like, it's like at times I felt really cute and I felt really pretty, but then at the same time, like I hated life and was really dark and really dismal. So it was like really just convoluted. So I made really bad grades. I threw pity parties for myself. I was naturally attached to like depressive type of things and depressive mechanisms of life. Like I kind of got off on that, like mentally. So what my point is for a very long time, I held into the story of being like sad or, you know, the one left behind or the one that was struggling. That was my story. That was my story that I told. I had like always found like a reason for something. And what mean by that is I always found justification for the reasoning why something was going on the way it was, rather than having self accountability. So, self accountability, as much as I thought I had it, especially I came into spiritual gifts and this whole world in like 2017, very much by the universal powers around us, not so much my decision of outwardly seeking it. And what I mean by that is you can go into these states of egoism where you think the world is attacking you, no one's listening to you, no one cares. Your husband just needs to change, which I mean, he might have some things to change. That's valid. But also sometimes we have to listen to the things that other people are telling us. And so if your husband, for example, in my life, eventually is like, you treat me like shit, and you're like, "Oh, that's a bit dramatic. That's a bit much. Like, I don't treat, I don't like, I'm not hacking money and cheating on or whatever, justification." Instead, it was like, okay, maybe there's some truth to this. And then so finally, after many years of off and on being told this and always justifying my behavior, I finally just accepted it. And I was like, why is this so hard for me to accept? Because, well, then I'm a bad person. Well, then it means that I really have been fucking somebody over. Well, then I have been part of the, like, really a big part of the problem, and it hasn't been him. Oh, I have to look at myself and face myself with that. So that's really the feeling of why a lot of times we won't admit to stuff. Same thing of like, your financial situation sucks. 90% of the time, it's your own goddamn decisions. You make stupid fucking decisions. You spend money you don't have, or you undermine yourself, Like, you have a fucking degree and you probably work like an admin job. Why? Why don't you push yourself? Like, everybody has imposter syndrome at some point, whether you're a business owner or in careers. Like, you're going to feel like you don't know what the shit you're doing. It's totally normal. Like, but you have to call yourself out on it. So for me, by admitting to I treat you like shit, I began to have the utmost form of self-accountability. This does not mean my human experience has been fucking unicorns and rainbows and that I've never had a shitty tone again and that I am like Mary fucking Poppins every damn day and rested and lovely. No, I'm still human. You're still gonna human. No matter what video you watch, what course you read, what podcast you listen to, we're still gonna human. But we get these tools and we get the realization. Are we still living in our past life? Are we living in the now and we just got some shit to work on as a human? Because I was living in my past. I was attached to that goddamn sob story of all the mistakes I made in business, the times that I had business going great and then I let it go because of a stupid decision, blah, 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 blah. Realizing inside of my own relationship, not because of physical safety or verbal safety, just like the nervous system safety, energetic safety, I was not naturally inclined to compassion and love and softness. I had to relearn all that shit. And I am almost 40. And so that was something I had to realize. I started off with my hand on my chest going, I am safe. That started to change the dynamic of my marriage. Something so freaking simple. Me having to just like a better attitude about life. Not being so fucking stressed out about everything. Oh, but Danielle, I got a lot going on. Sometimes just the acknowledgement of what's going on actually creates the release instead of the story of the pity. You talk about it in a way of like, this is really frustrating to me. This is what it is. What if this is what my life is? So like health and nurture that created the irritability, that was giving me attention. That was how I was receiving comfort, but I actually was still resisting it because then I would resist a thing that I'm creating in my body subconsciously that then would cause me to need the help of another person, in which I receive the help of I resist the help of receiving help from other people. This is the snowball effect, and this might be like, what the fuck did she all just say? Like, this is confusing fuck. Rewatch this thing. I guarantee there's golden nuggets in it. Guaranteed. So the point is, if your life isn't where you want it to be, I ask you to look in the mirror. And I don't mean doing some airy-fairy mirror work right now. That stuff is good, but we're not doing that just yet. You have to be honest. So the thing that I do differently in my life and the work that I teach is if we go automatically every single time into the positive, we're dismissing self-accountability. I don't consider it a negative. I consider it a reality. I consider it the reality in which you choose to coexist in. Until we bring light to that reality in which you coexist in, we can't do anything about it. You can't move forward. And that's when you get stuck in limbo. And that's when you cycle. And that's when you feel like life is just like a pile of shit or just frustrating. Or it seems like when you do advance, it doesn't really seem like it's working out very well. Or when you have something in your hand, it starts to fall apart. It's your expectations of your behaviors. So If you shift it into the person that does not want to treat people like shit, well, then she realizes she needs to go to bed at a certain time. She has to be rested. When she's rested, her irritability factor diminishes because her fatigue spells diminish. When she goes and does, this habit and this habit, well, all of a sudden, like her body actually feels really well. Then she starts to notice when she starts to feel really well, and then she starts to verbally acknowledge that externally, it starts to sabotage itself because then she just brought light to basically the vulnerability that I still could fall today. I could still stumble tomorrow and oh shit, somebody's going to tell me that I did something wrong. So I might as well just make it go back to what it was because then it just is what it is. And we will cycle and we will cycle. So then you get to, again, this time you've already had the awareness of the present moment of what you do, of who you are, of how you act. It's happening again. I'm realizing that I'm pushing myself to overwork. I'm realizing that I'm doing these things and then it's going to cause me to change my mood, which then is going to cause me to be grumpy towards my kids, which then is going to cause me to be stressed out towards them, which then is going to cause me to be irritable to my husband, in which then he's going to feel like I'm not in a good mood and I'm grumpy and I'm unhappy. And then I'm going to get pissed that he thinks that I'm grumpy, unhappy all the time. And I'm going to be like, I'm not grumpy, unhappy all the time because then I'm recollecting to my happy moments and he's recollecting to the now, the experience of what it is. So what you get to do is as you have more self-awareness and these habits start to happen and they're going to happen, you get to do something about it because you have self-accountability instead of what he is doing me and what they are doing me and what the air has done to me. What am I doing to myself? Where am I betraying myself? Where am I sloppy with myself? So sometimes it's where am I not saying no to things? Where am I not being disciplined enough to actually form a habit that I know is like really great for my body? Is it movement? What does that type of movement look like for you? I explored many, many things for me to find out what works well for movement. And it's literally just like doing this, like bobbing back and forth on a small trampoline, aka rebounding. But I don't do like the whole hit workout. Like I'm not bouncing around like a crazy thing. That doesn't actually work well for me. I have vestibular issues. So I get motion sickness. So you have to find what works for you. You have to figure out what works for you. You have to realize like, okay, I still am very sensitive. I still, tend to lean to this. I have to stop this story. I have to interject the story. I have a habit. I'm a storyteller also naturally. So I have to realize consciously I'm attached to my stories. Well, how do I reinvent my stories? How do I attach to the stories that I actually really loved? And then how do I embody them? And when I did that, it started to change my life. The way that I do business now has strategy and it has some black and white elements. I have always been very steadfast about being so gray and open. And I am with my perspective thought. I am very ambiguous, have a lot of ambiguity and have a lot of ambiguous thoughts. I do a lot in terms of subjectivity and objectivity in the aspect of philosophy and psychology and all those things. Yeah, I do. I'm in the middle. But in the human experience, I needed to adapt some black and white, and I needed to admit that. I needed to admit that, like, I have a tendency to panic. So you start to become hyper aware of, oh, a big decision just got made. I'm going to panic. I panic when my husband feels like he doesn't know the answer because I rely on his surety. Oh, because I don't have a sense of my own. Boom, awareness. You can understand the behavior. You can stop the sabotage, or you can bring awareness to, hey, right now, I feel really fucking super sensitive. So I'm probably going to be a little bit more guarded. I just want to let you know because I don't want you to think that I'm attacking you. But I also don't want to attack you because that's not right either. So how can you help me maybe maneuver this? Because I don't know if I have the tools to do it. I don't know if I'll ever have the tools to do this. I'm a little quirky. So it's that type of shit. And when you do that, you're going to start taking so much ownership of your life. You're going to manifest some of the most majestic things. And this is where that stuff that you hear where somebody wrote a check and somebody did this thing, you have to understand that the identity that they're working with was they allowed themselves to be humble when they were at rock bottom. They allowed themselves to admit that, like, I'm a shitty person. I need to do something different. They were allowing themselves to be verbal about what is in the now to be able to then visualize that future. And if you do that for yourself and you start today, you will begin to change your life.